Emma Conally-Barklem is a yogi, a yoga teacher and a writer based in rural North Yorkshire in England. And she's a biracial blend of Yorkshire and Jamaica. She was a lecturer in English literature for 13 years before retraining and embracing the yogic lifestyle. She teaches classes, workshops, and holds retreats at home and away. Emma is co-authoring a book on Ashtanga yoga for everyone, and she's just completed her grief memoir, You Can't Hug a Butterfly, Love, Life, Loss and Yoga, which she'll be talking to you a little bit about after the practice. Emma's also written on race, Black Lives Matter, grief, yoga philosophy, and the 8-limb path, which she'll share a little bit with you today. Her works appeared in Om Yoga magazine, Spirit and Destiny magazine, and the BWY Spectrum and Yoga Now magazines, as well as online magazines. She's all over the place. Currently, she's teaching yoga and English online, freelance writing, and writing on the issues which are dear to her heart. She believes in yoga for social justice. She's a grief activist, trying to normalize the grieving process so people feel less alone.
Okay, good morning, everybody. So my name is Emma. They've given me a lovely introduction, so there's not much more for me to say, really. I would like to talk a little bit about yoga because sometimes people can have strange ideas about what yoga is. So I am an 8-limb yogi who subscribes to the Yoga Sutras as put out by Anjali 5000 BC. And this definition of yoga is a complete way of life. It's a holistic approach to life, of which the postures are just an 8th. So there are 8 limbs. And this 8-limb path has really helped me with my grief journey. So I'll say a little bit about my story, and then we're going to do some little bits and pieces of yoga practice, mainly with the breath. Know that if you've never done any yoga before, you're in very safe hands. It's all good. You can do whatever we're doing this morning, you can do from a chair. If you've got any injuries or you've got any conditions, also absolutely fine. I have back issues, knee issues, all kinds of different things. The great thing about yoga is you can practice whatever body you're in. And it's a really valuable and useful healing tool for the grieving process, particularly the acute grieving process that happens at the beginning, which I will talk more about. So my mum died 3 years ago of a rare cancer. She had a 2-year period where she was going through various treatments, chemotherapy, radiography, and all the rest of it, and she died, which was kind of like an explosion in my life. I'd not really, I'd not expected it. Came completely out of, it was completely unexpected. I wasn't prepared for it, and it's like some of you know, if you lost people, you'll know it's like being in the middle of a bomb site. This bomb goes off, and you're in a state of shock and overwhelm. So I was in this state. My auntie had bought my mum a journal to write in when she'd gone into a Marie Curie hospice, and she'd bought her this journal in case she wanted to write down any of her thoughts. My mum managed to make one entry into this journal, and she died shortly afterwards. So I made it my mission to write this journal for her and to complete this journal. So initially it was an outpouring of everything I was feeling, literally from day one. So this is the actual journal. And I kept writing and writing and writing. And eventually I realized I could maybe help people with this journal. I was also writing down how to treat grievers, things to say, things not to say, how yoga can help, and all the things I was kind of going through. And it eventually evolved into my grief memoir, You Can't Hug a Butterfly. So I've not started off thinking I would write this. It just evolved from the journal, and I'm currently seeking an agent or trying to seek a publishing company to publish the book. So it's very dear to my heart. My idea is to get out my mum's story and to help as many people as possible feel less alone. So, going to begin with a reading from the journal, and then we're going to move into a little practice. So it'll be interspersed readings, breathings, yoga, all the way through. Okay. So I'm going to read to you literally my entry for the 18th and 19th of July, 2018, days 1 and 2. Like living through a nightmare, I looked deeply into my mother's eyes as our worst fears came true and her light slowly diminished. The pain I felt, although anticipated for many months now, was indescribable. A pain which doubled me up and had me howling in the arms of Suzanne. A series of guilty thoughts. I didn't spend enough time with her. Why didn't I stay to be the last day? I succumbed to these self-flagellating thoughts, which I knew I would break under if I continued to repeat them. The yogic part of me, well-trained and watchful, said, allow the thoughts, self-recriminating and otherwise, bubble up, but don't attach to them. I saw the thoughts were entirely negative and didn't take into account all the time we had spent laughing, visiting, talking in the last 2 years, all the methods I tried to help or ease her suffering. So then I knew I had the choice to continue to beat myself with all the recognizable signs of grief, denial, anger, bargaining, would, should, could, or I could honor all the good times in the years which came before the corrosive aggression of cancer. It feels very raw, and I'm sure those of you going through the grief process know that actually it gets better. It can get worse. We're sold this myth that time heals all wounds, when actually this is a misnomer, because it's longer since you saw your person. So the acute stages can be dealt with, certainly, but I think the process of grief needs to continue to be dealt with all the way through life. It's something that we have to learn to live with and shape our lives around. Okay, so we're going to begin a little practice. I'll say more about the 8 limbs later on. Initially, I'd just like you to sit comfortably, whether that's on a chair or a cushion, anything that feels comfortable. Also, you don't need to sit like this. You can sit however. Stretch your legs out. You can have the feet on the floor, whatever works for you. And just take a few moments to have a little sway from side to side. It is morning, so I don't know about you guys, but I feel pretty stiff in the morning. Despite 20 years of yoga, yes, still get stiff. So just have a little sway from side to side. That's it. And then just settle into the center and feel on the inhale, you can lift and lengthen the spine. And on the exhale, you can release the shoulders. And doing this again, inhale to lift and lengthen. And exhale to release. So bringing the hands into a prayer position. This is called Anjali Mudra. And it's a way of bringing yourself back to your heart. So often we're in our minds too much. We've got all these thoughts going on. We're in the past, we're in the future. Doing this brings us back to our instinctive, intuitive space of the heart. So as you arrive here, just take a few moments to tune into your breath. You may close the eyes and just have this sense of deep connection with the breath moving in, the breath moving out. Know that the breath is the 4th limb of yoga, or it's called pranayama. And as you arrive here, just gently bow the head and take a few moments to tune in, see how your body feels this morning. And just observe that. So it might be stiff, might be okay, cold, warm, agitated, sleepy. Judgment. And then shift your awareness to the quality of your thoughts. So is your mind busy, tired, hectic, sad, ticking over? Just see. And then take your awareness to the quality of your emotions. How do you feel in yourself? Happy, sad, disengaged, bored, enthusiastic. Again, observe with no judgment. Know that all these states are a passing show of which we can become the witness. So this, you may have heard of mindfulness. This is a practice of mindfulness, bringing ourselves into the now through observation of breath, body, mind, and thought. So then you may plant a seed of intention in the heart space. It might be for the weekend, for this festival that you're attending. And it's something simple, something you'd like for yourself. It might be to feel more relaxed, to feel calm, to let go of stress or worry. And this is called a sankalpa. We plant a seed of intention. Exhale and gently open the eyes. You can just rest the hands down and just take a few moments to see how you feel. You might already feel you've come down a few notches. So the yoga process is nothing complicated about it. It's about having a spirit of awareness and allowing the healing power of the breath to move. So we're going to do some movements. In, lift and lengthen. On the exhale, gently lean forward and then lean over to your left side. Inhale as you circle back. And exhale as you circle forward. This is a gentle movement, releases the lower back, and also helps the digestive tract, a little bit of stimulation. So inhaling, exhaling. Nice and easy. So we'll then pause, we'll change direction, inhale. Exhale, change direction, shoulders are relaxed, jawline is relaxed, inhaling, exhaling. So we're working with a concept called sukham, or comfort. Despite what you may have seen about yoga and all these pretty wild moves you may have seen, really day-to-day yoga is about finding peace and comfort. So we'll do one more circle, exhaling as we come forward, and then inhale, come back to center, and exhale. If you're sitting cross-legged like myself, I'd like you to just lean back, change the cross of the legs. If you're seated on a chair, no problem, just stay as you are. So as we arrive here, we'll just work into a gentle twist to open up the spine. So inhale, lengthen. Exhale, and just turn gently over to your right side. So you can take the right hand back behind you, left hand comes over. And just gaze over to the side, or you may glide the head to look over the shoulder. Just stay comfortable. And as you feel the restriction of the twist, just see where the breath emerges. Try to relax into that. So in yoga, we create some discomfort, restriction, and so we can practice making peace with it. We all know the grief is very uncomfortable, very painful. So if we can recreate just a little bit of that on the mat, we know what to do. We know that all we need to do is breathe, and things will pass. Dramatic emotional states will pass. So then we'll shift to the opposite side. Inhale, lift the arms up. Exhale, turning the opposite way. One hand goes behind, one arm goes over. That's it. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, and again, you can just gaze to the side or glide the head to look over the shoulder. And just feel the breath emerge in the heart space. Feel the restriction. Try not to tense, try to relax into it. Much of grief is leaning into uncomfortable emotions. It can be anger, denial, frustration. And these can be emotions which instinctively we would turn away from. In yoga, it's all about acceptance, accepting all that is with no judgment, feeling this discomfort and knowing that it will change, things will pass. So then inhale as you bring yourself back to center, and exhale. From here, we'll just do a gentle neck release. Inhale. Exhale, release the left ear down towards the left shoulder. And just see how that feels. You may feel a real tightness emerge down the side of the neck. That's okay, that's the discomfort. So just breathe into that. Now you may also find that your belly tightens. You may just bring a supportive hand to rest on the belly. So you can encourage it to soften, and instead just feel that you're squeezing the pelvic floor gently. So when we feel anxious, stressed, overwhelmed, or in a grief state, we can experience a lot of that here. You may have felt that, you may have felt tightness here, you've had digestive issues, IBS issues, all the stress goes here. So just feel, give your body permission to expand into the belly on the inhale. And on the exhale, just to let it go. And if you feel you really have a lot going on, you can breathe out through the mouth and let it go that way. And if you want to increase the sensation of this stretch, you can lift 2 hands up, bring one to the side of the head, the other to the shoulder, and gently draw these 2 hands away from each other. Reconnect with the breath. You may also close the eyes. This all feels pretty tight. It's okay. And we're also opening out the lymphatic area. So when we're grieving, we're crying quite a lot. You know, we can get quite bunged up. Again, not pleasant, is it? Necessary, but not pleasant. So if we're feeling bunged up, it can kind of inflame the lymphatic nodes. So doing any kind of work around the neck and shoulders helps to relieve that. One more breath. Make sure you're not pressing with the top hand. It's just literally a light pressure. Good. And then release the hands. Inhale as you come back to center. Exhale. You might feel a little bit lightheaded after that. Totally normal. We're releasing tension. So we'll inhale. Exhale, release. Right ear towards right shoulder. You may find one side is tighter than the other. Again, it's very rare that we're symmetrical. So again, just accept that. Observe that. Keep the metronome of the breath moving. Even inhale. Even exhale. And again, if you feel anything begin to bubble up around the belly, just put a supportive hand there. Acknowledge. Acknowledge sensation. Acknowledge emotion. If you want to make this a little bit more intense, again, you can bring the hands into this and just gently apply that extra opening. Close the eyes. Closing the eyes takes you into the 5th limb, which is pratyahara, or sense withdrawal. So sometimes if the world gets too loud or we feel overwhelmed, it's good to withdraw. Closing the eyes can do that. It can also help you to tune in to what's going on the inside. Good, and then release the hands. Inhale as you come back to center. Exhale, and just you might want to just bobble the head from side to side. Just release the sides of the neck. Good. Come back to center. Our final little move to begin is with the shoulders. So this involves quite a long, quite a sharp exhale. This is good if you're experiencing feelings of anger or frustration. Anger for me was one of the dominant emotions that I felt around grief. So from here on the inhale, reach the arms up. Big stretch, big morning stretch. That's it. And then exhale, drop the shoulders. Drop the elbows. Good. And again, we've got 3 more. Inhale, reach up. And exhale. Good. And again, inhale, reach up. And exhale. Last one. Make it a good one. Big inhale, big reach. Stretch the spine. And exhale. Good. So then just have a little shoulder shimmy. And we'll finish that off. So that's our first taste of yoga. If you've not done yoga before, this is yoga. Yeah. So not standing on your hands, not all those things, the splits, etc. All the things that you see with yoga, they are yoga. Yes, they are asanas, but yoga runs a lot deeper than that. So we've been practicing an 8-limb practice. We've been looking at, and I shall go through the 8 limbs now. So we've got 8 limbs of yoga. So the first limb of yoga is how you deal with yourself. So how do you deal with yourself in the world? And it can look at things like contentment, cleanliness, avoiding gossip, self-study, looking at your habits, your reactions. So just really bringing a benevolent eye to your patterns and how you deal with yourself. That's the first limb of yoga. The second is how you deal with the world around you. And we know the world is challenging and can be very overwhelming. Life can be really difficult at times. So how do we deal with the world around us? How do we conduct ourselves in the world? Do we have to take everything on board? Do we set healthy boundaries between ourselves and the world? So things like that. The third limb of yoga is the one, probably what yoga is known for, the asanas, or asana. So this is the postures. According to the Yoga Sutras only has one line to say about the asana, and that is to find a comfortable and steady seat. Hopefully we found a comfortable and steady seat today. So the asana practice can be as dynamic or as relaxed as you need it to be. The beauty of yoga is there are lots of different styles you can practice. So I teach Ashtanga yoga, which is a very dynamic, vigorous practice, really good for cleansing, getting things out. I also teach restorative and yin yoga, which is really good for the nervous system, calming the whole system down through deep relaxation. So you can choose the style of yoga, really, what you want for your mood, what you want for that particular day. The fourth limb, we did a little practice of observing the breath. So that's pranayama. Pranayama means breath control. There are lots of different breath practices you can do in yoga. We will be doing some of them. We've done a little bit of belly breathing. That's a really good stress relieving one. We'll be looking at another one called Dirasana a bit later on. The fifth limb of yoga is pratyahara, or sense withdrawal. I mentioned this during our little practice. So you may have seen that image of the three monkeys, closing the eyes, closing the ears, closing the mouth. This is sense withdrawal. So it's where we bring ourselves in. Some of the postures, like tortoise pose, for example, you curl over, you kind of fold in on yourself into your protective shell. So there are lots of different ways you can practice sense withdrawal. The sixth limb of yoga is concentration or focus. I think we've had a lot of practice of that over the last 18 months of being in a pandemic. You know, practicing keeping our distance, practicing awareness of where other people are, you know. And this can be called keeping your drishti, keeping your focus. And again, you may practice looking at your thumbs, looking at your toes, giving your mind a focal point. You could candle gaze, for example, giving yourself something to focus on so you can build up the resilience required to get through life as it is. So that's the sixth limb. The seventh limb you'll have heard of is meditation. And again, lots of different ways to meditate, seated, moving, walking, all kinds of different ways to meditate. And the magical eighth limb is Samadhi. And Samadhi, in a very basic nutshell, is when you feel happy and content for no particular reason. So you might visit the beach, see a wonderful sunset, hear a child laugh. You may just be filled with joy, which is beyond thought. And we can experience Samadhi in those ordinary moments, really, in our lives, with children, with sunsets, you know, if we're on a holiday or we're having a walk in the autumn leaves, just a moment of peace. And we're always searching for that moment of peace. So there is no hierarchy to the limbs. They kind of all are interwoven into each other. And for me, the eight limb path is the only path that has brought me any semblance of peace in this world. So I try to practice the eight limb path, and it really has helped me in the grieving process. So that's the 8 limbs. If you have any questions about those at the end, you can let me know. Know that the classes I teach are infused with all those 8 limbs in the practice. So next reading, I'm talking about yoga philosophy. So I mentioned the Yoga Sutras. There are also lots of other books. So there are the Upanishads, for example. There's the Bhagavad Gita. There's the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. So lots of wisdom in these ancient yoga texts. So when I was keeping my journal, and I was in the really acute stages of grief, it helped to write. So just the process of writing I found therapeutic, and that's something that I've continued. So like a lot of people, I've had shifts and moments to reflect in the pandemic, and I've really moved towards writing in this period. But when I was in that kind of real raw shock and trying to process things, I turned to these books, which had always been a comfort to me. So I'm going to read to you some of the lines from the books. Okay. So this is from one of the Upanishads called the Forest of Wisdom, which is Brihadara Ramyaka. This is Sanskrit, this language I'm speaking. It's the language of yoga. When body and mind grow weak, the self gathers in all the powers of life and descends with them into the heart. As prana leaves the eye, it ceases to see. By the light of the heart, the self leaves the body by one of its gates. And when it leaves, prana follows, and with it all the vital powers of the body. She or he who is dying merges in consciousness. So I found that comforting because it suggests that life continues on, but just in a different form, just not in this body. The next one kind of uses imagery. As a caterpillar, having come to the end of one blade of grass, draws itself together and reaches out for the next, so the self, having come to the end of one life and dispelled all ignorance, gathers in their facilities and faculties and reaches out from the old body to a new. So the belief in yoga is there might be a process of reincarnations. If you've not learned all the lesson of one life, then you will move on to another body in order to experience that. Again, this is just personal belief. As a goldsmith fashions an old ornament into a new and more beautiful one, so the self, having reached the end of the last life, makes for herself a new, more beautiful shape, like that of the devas or other celestial beings. And it brings in an angelic realm to it, which I liked, comforted me. The Chandogya Upanishad, therefore, whoever of our own departs from this life, not one can ever be brought back before our eyes. And when I wrote my journal, I wrote the cause of my pain underneath that, the fact that we'll never see that loved one again on this plane. So we can have all these beliefs about the afterlife or about people being around us. I truly feel that as well, people, their moms around me. But we do miss the animal, you know, the smell, the laugh, the sensation, the hugs, which is why I call my memoir, You Can't Hug a Butterfly. I could see all the white butterflies in the world. At the time that she died, the air seemed to be filled with these cabbage white butterflies. It was a really searing summer, 2018. And it was both a comfort and a torment because I knew I couldn't hug them and I knew I couldn't hug her again. So I think the acceptance of that pain was important and is an important step in healing. There's a distinction we can draw between pain and suffering. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. So I like the way that the Upanishads embrace that directly. You know, this is how it is. This is how death works. Finally, but all those we love, alive or departed, are found when we enter that space with the heart. Really love that because it suggests wherever we are, our love continues. The body may die, but our love continues. The memories continue. They're all here. And of course, the heart or Anahata chakra in yoga is the central point from which you practice. It's where all the love is. It's where all the compassion is. So this really made sense to me to connect with the heart space. And these were the words from the Upanishads, which were a big comfort for me. Okay. So I'm going to move on to a little bit more practice. This is a pranayama. You'll recall pranayama is the fourth limb of yoga. So this is a breathing exercise. I'm going to come to a slightly different position. You'll see that I'm using a bolster also. So I use everything I need to support my body. I do have a back issue, which is really well managed by yoga. When I started yoga, I had ruptured discs in my back. And since the grieving process, I have had a few acute episodes, hospital episodes, when I wasn't dealing with the grief. So it reminded me that everything that you feel sits in the body, and the yoga helps you to excavate that. It's kind of an excavation of self. So, Hatha Dirasana, traditionally, you would sit back on the heels. This might not be comfortable. I've got a knee issue. I know that kneeling actually helps it, but if this doesn't feel right, there are things you can do. You can bring support, cushions, whatever you've got around your house, between your heels and your sitting bones, and it gives you less distance to travel, and that's an option. If kneeling just really doesn't agree with you, then you just sit however you want to. So I will leave that up to you. So we'll take a few moments just to settle down, settle and center once again. Bring the hands back to the heart space. Tune back in. Let's take a nice long inhale. And exhale. You may wish to return to the intention you set at the beginning of your practice. And then take a deeper breath in. exhale. So for Pada Dirasana, very simple. You just bring the hands underneath the armpits. So you literally bring your hands underneath the armpits and just have the thumbs sticking out at the front, but then just relax them. That's it. So you relax the elbows, relax the shoulders, but feel that you can sit tall. And then just begin to tune into your breathing. Because we have the hands positioned around the intercostals, you may have a real sense of rise and fall, a real physical sense of the breath moving in your body. I'd like you to tune into that. Breath coming in, breath coming out. Now you may feel as you tune into this that your eyes naturally grow heavy, and this is natural. There are different energy points or marma points around the armpits which trigger the vagus nerve, which help the relaxation response. So this is kind of like giving yourself a self-hug. So allow the eyes to close, go with that. And continue to anchor your awareness to breath moving in, breath moving out. Be aware of any subconscious reactions to the practice. If you can feel you're holding anywhere, maybe around the jawline, maybe around the shoulders, maybe you could relax the fingers more. Just take every opportunity you can to find relaxation at the same time as being able to sit relatively upright. As we gather in this center of the heart space, or Anahata chakra, we can begin to hold both joy and sorrow at the same time. We can feel the expansion of hope on the inhale. We can feel the releasing of sorrow on the exhale. We can feel the expansion of love on the inhale. We can feel the release of doubt on the exhale. We can become aware of the pauses either side of the inhale and the exhale. We can allow our awareness to pour into these pauses, these moments of stillness, tiny glimmers of peace. In these tiny pauses, we can feel that in this moment, all is well. In this moment, all is well. So as you continue to observe the breath, you may begin to feel the mind tapping into a deeper stream of stillness and harmony which resides underneath all of the reactions, the joys and the sorrows. And this space is known as Spanda, or higher, deeper consciousness, a place we touch every time we practice. So then on the next exhale, gently release the chin towards the chest. You can still keep your eyes closed. And then tune in to sensation around the upper back and the back of the neck, feeling where you can release. as you let go of the weight of the head. Here we return to pratyahara or sense withdrawal. We'll practice the sixth limb of dhyana, focus, concentration as we observe the breath. And then from here on the inhale, gently lift the crown of the head. Exhale, gently blink the eyes open. Release the hands down and keep the palms open. Keep the back of the neck long and just allow yourself a little time to come round from that practice. And then take a deeper breath in and exhale. Good, just wriggle out the fingers. If you need to shift position, go back to however you were before we started that. So I want you to keep hold of the feeling. So know, sometimes your mind resists these things. When I first started yoga, I was very resistant to the whole process. So know if you've had that, that's okay. You know, if you got bored, you felt frustrated, that's okay. That happens, and it brings those emotions up, which is good. You know, better to have them out. If you felt a sense of peace or more of a stillness, great. Yeah, and know that it only takes 5 minutes. We just did 5 minutes of practice. The Yoga for Grief videos that I film are 10 minutes. And people think they have to get on the mat for a crazy amount of time. No, you know, we've all got busy lives. 10 minutes can make a huge shift, a huge difference, and it can really set you up for the day, or it can really help you wind down at the end of a busy day. So know that a little is better than nothing. A little yoga is better than no yoga, and it's also sometimes better than doing an hour and then not doing it again for a month. So little and often is really good, really helpful. So we combined quite a few things there, and I'm aware that many of you are grief practitioners. You know, you work in this field of grief and death and dying, and these are little things you can pass on to anybody that you're helping. You know, if you work with volunteers or grievers or people who might benefit from this. This is so easy to teach, you know, tucking your hands in and just guiding people to watch their breath. And if someone's really overwhelmed, you know, they're feeling really too much out there, they need to be brought in, doing this or doing this is just a simple, quick access to the heart and to feel better and just to come back to yourself. So I would encourage you to pass these things on. My whole thing is to help people feel better, particularly grievers. Who don't always get a great deal in society, as we know. Hence the need for a festival such as this one. So this takes me on to my next reading. So when I first lost my mom, I have to say there's a lot of rubbish books on grief, you know, anything that said that I would heal in time, any sentence that starts with the words at least she had so many years long in her life, anything that says I have to get over or move on, kind of were no-nos for me. I was like, surely that can't be right. I need to accept where I am. I need to accept there was a big love, so there was a big grief, and the grief is going to continue. So I did read a few gems which were dear to my heart. I also read quite a lot of articles and continue to read really good books and articles. If you need any recommendations, do let me know. This was something that I read in The Guardian, actually, Guardian newspaper, UK newspaper, by a journalist called Owen Jones, and it concerned the death of his own father. And I'm always drawn to books where the person's gone through it, yeah, particularly death of a parent for me. So it depends how it resonates for you, really. And I became aware in my own process about how badly grievers are treated in society and how we're in a grief illiterate society, and how that actually made the whole thing much worse to go through, because you felt like you were failing in some way, or I should have got over this by now, or I'm not coping, maybe, you know, I've got some issue that I need to deal with. You kind of were led to feelings of inadequacy. So when I read this, it really resonated with me, and it's something that I put into the memoir. The first thing he said is what I call grief hijacks, about grief hijacks. It can hijack you. Grief is like wandering through a minefield. However carefully you tread, a sudden detonation can happen out of nowhere. A song played in a supermarket, an overheard phrase, someone in the distance who looks like your loved one. So all these things I related to that being hijacked in unsuitable places. He then went on to say, the bereaved are often treated badly. There is no statutory paid bereavement leave, although I think that's changing now, with the emotionally stunned, often compelled to work within days of losing a loved one. A third of those who have suffered bereavement report being treated with no compassion by their employers. At the very least, we need to learn to talk more about grief if we are to build a society that treats the bereaved better. I thought, yes, that's exactly what we need to do. So I take every opportunity I can to talk about it, to talk about grief, to talk about loss, so we don't kind of try and wipe these things, brush these things under the carpet. He then went on to say, finally, our culture doesn't give us the vocabulary to talk to the grieving. We often admit, I don't know what to say. While how well we are judged to be dealing with grief is based on how little emotion we express. So a lot of phrases I had come my way, and I know people were trying to help, but they just didn't have the vocabulary. Well, you're so strong, you're doing really well, you're really holding this together, you're setting a good example. When of course, you know, you'd rather not be in this position. You don't particularly want to be strong or brave or any of those things, but what choice do you have? You have to carry on, right? You can't just lie down and disintegrate. But I found actually disintegration was one of the healing tools. You know, in order to not break, paradoxically, you do have to disintegrate. You have to allow the tears, allow the conversation. It's okay to not be okay, to say, actually, I feel crap today. Yeah, I feel really emotional. This happened, this triggered this triggered that. To be able to have those uncomfortable, open conversations became something that I started to work towards. And really that was facilitated, not just with yoga. Yoga is an amazing tool and it's central to my life, but I also think other things work. So getting out in nature, that's a huge medicine for me. I have to get out every single day, connecting to the world, being able to see the horizon, yeah, not buildings, not inside, getting out with the creatures, this helps. So that worked for me. Also, I found during the pandemic, it was a very isolating position to be in. I didn't feel supported by family. So therapy, it was a difficult step at the time, but it's one that I'm so grateful that I did. Go into therapy, for grief therapy, and to start to process and be given more tools with how to handle the grief. Yeah, how to handle society's reaction to the grief and how people disappeared, family disappeared, and how do I deal with that? So I think using a combination of things helps, and yoga is central to it, but there are other things as well. So pitfalls. Pitfalls is my next one. I fell into some pretty big pitfalls. I'd absorbed the narrative that healing with time is a great healer. I've absorbed that, and I became very, very busy. So for 2 years, I was non-stop. I was all around the world doing the retreats until eventually my back stopped me. So I had this acute episode with my back. I literally stopped. I couldn't walk. I was crawling up and down the stairs after a week. I couldn't move before that. And I knew what was happening. I knew I was being brought down so that I would face this grief. I wouldn't continue to run away from it. And part of the process of me running away was because I didn't know what to do. I've been told these things, get on with it, keep yourself busy, you know, all these unhelpful, harmful narratives that we're told. So that was a big pitfall that I fell into. So things can't be denied. And one of the videos that I filmed is called Yoga for Denial. You know, sometimes I think at the acute stages, sometimes a level of keeping busy is helpful. It's if it goes to the extreme that it can become difficult because it's so painful, you know, and you can't live in that complete vacuum of pain 24/7, you know, something would break. So you do have to have some level of distraction. But as with everything in life, I think you have to have a balance of how you juggle this grief with the demands of your everyday life. So those are the things that helped. Nature, journaling, writing my mom's journal, respecting the cycles, respecting the seasons, knowing like now in November, in the UK at least, is the time to slow down. You know, the clocks have changed, it's darker. Naturally, as animals, we're designed to slow down, not to keep on keeping on, particularly if we're in a grief state. We need to honor that, create space, space to dream, space to stare, space to float. Yeah, times when we're not always switched on. So trying to honor the cycles, and everything I'm talking about are things I continue to work on. So I'm not on top of this stuff by any means, but these are the things that are helping me now, and I try to pass on to people. Getting out of yourself. We did a few charity events, you know, because although you can acknowledge your own pain, you can also acknowledge other people are going through pain as well, and actually helping other people is something that helps you to feel good. And really, you will take anything that helps you to feel good. It could be helping others, it could be a good glass of wine, it could be a bar of chocolate, it could be a new dress. Take what you need is what I would say there. Yeah, whatever makes you feel grieving feels bloody horrible, feels difficult. Okay, so I'm going to move on. So for this next one, again, we're doing all of our work from seated today, nice and accessible. So sit nice and tall. We're going to look at the sides of the body. I'm actually going to come off the bolster for this one. So you can do this, again, you can do this from the chair. You can use the sides of the chair. I teach chair yoga as well. I've taught that. So you can kind of hold the sides of the chair, or you can come from seated position on the floor. So take a nice long inhale. Exhale, relax the shoulders. Inhale. On the exhale, gently press the right hand down to the floor and just to the side of you. If you're on the chair, just hold the side of the chair. That's it. If you're on the sofa, just press the hand onto the sofa. And just feel that side of the body gently begin to open. Make sure the sitting bones are equally placed, whatever you're sitting on. So these are the back muscles. So if any of what I said about the back resonated with you, back, neck and shoulders are my hot spots. This is a really good release for those areas. These are the QLs, or quadratus laborum, the deep back muscles where we can kind of hold a lot of stuff. So stay here, we direct breath into the side of the body. If you want to make this stronger, you can either bring a hand to a hip, or you can swoosh the arm across, so you go down and up, inhale, exhale, stretch into the fingertips. You can either look down, straight ahead, or up towards the fingertips. Again, you see how your neck feels. You might close the eyes, deepen the breath. If you're doing this with me, you'll know now that this is more challenging than it looks. If you've got any tightness in your body, you can definitely feel that. I can feel that too. You can also take the opportunity to release the neck again and the lymphatic system around the neck and shoulders. So on the exhale, you can glide the head to look down towards the right hand. And on the inhale, you can glide the head slowly to look up towards the fingertips. Exhaling to look down. Keep the chin just gently tucking in. Inhaling to glide up. Again, if this bothers anything, don't do it. Just look wherever is best. Exhale to look down. Last one. Inhale to look up. And then exhale to look down. Bring the arm all the way down and just bring the fingertips to the side. If you're on the chair, you'll just bring your hands to rest on your lap. So just above the knee. Or if you're on the floor, bring the fingertips to the floor. So just again, increasing the stretch. If that's too much, then just push up out of it. Stay happy. That's it. Just a few more breaths. Settle the breath into the nostrils. Acknowledge any tightness you can feel. It's all okay. And then squeeze the pelvic floor. Inhale. Carefully come back to center. You might feel a little bit tender after that. It's all right. Just take a moment in the center. If you're not used to these stretches, it can feel pretty epic. If you're used to a dynamic practice alternatively, then sometimes it's good to slow down. Keep things simple. Okay, so once everything's settled, you may have just felt a little rush of well-being down the side of that body. That's good. It's a nice feeling. So I'm going to repeat this to the other side. Inhale to lengthen. Exhale, gently press the left hand down, and just a nice easy lean. So no stress, no forcing, no striving. And again, one side might be tighter than the other, and just see. Direct the breath into that side of the body, whatever you can feel. Maybe the sides of your body are really open, you can't feel anything, you don't know what I'm talking about, that's all right. If that's the case, now you can always scoot your hand further forward. So you're in charge of this practice. Do what you need to do. You're holding the chair, you might slide a bit further down on the chair. Nice, steady breathing. So again, we can increase the sensation if you wish. You can stay here. You can bring the hand to rest on the hip. Make sure you're still breathing. Remember, that's the main part of the yoga practice, it's all the breath. If you can't move, you can always breathe. And then inhale if you wish, swoosh the arm across, stretch up into the fingertips. Exhale, choose your gaze point. See what's comfortable in your neck. Find what feels therapeutic. So we're not using yoga as a tool to beat ourselves. We're using it as a tool to soothe and nurture, and yes, present discomfort, but to present it in a palatable way. If you wish to, on the exhale, glide the head to look down towards the bottom hand. Inhale to glide slowly back up. Exhale to glide down. Inhale to look up. Exhale to glide down. Inhale to look up. This time, exhale to glide down. Again, you can bring the hand all the way down onto fingertips or resting on the lap. Just increase that stretch. Take a breath. Breathe into the tightness. See where you can create any space. And then inhale and bring it back up. Exhale. And just take a moment again just to sit comfortably. Make sure you're sitting nice and tall. Lift the chest forward. Lift through the crown of the head. And drop the shoulders back. We'll do a few shoulder rolls. So inhale, lift the shoulders around the ears. Exhale to roll it back. It should feel quite nice. Inhale to lift. Try and keep the head still, the gaze level. Exhale to roll. We've got two more. Inhale to lift. Exhale to roll. Last one. Inhale to lift. Exhale to roll. Good. Just have a little shoulder shimmy. And bringing the hands to prayer position. So I'd like to begin to wrap up this session, and thank you for joining me. So in the acute stages of grief, the breath is the key. Sometimes just taking a full breath is the challenge when you're grieving. I found that just breathing through the pain from moment to moment really helped me to get through those initial stages, and breathing more and more as each moment passed and passed until the pain passed. And we know that grief can operate in waves, so we can use the waves of the breath to soothe the whole system. So I'd like to thank you for coming and also to enjoy the rest of this amazing festival. So many different speakers and practitioners. It looks great. Fantastic lineup. If you want to see more of my work, I also write grief poetry. I write poems as well. You can find my work in my booth on my Instagram handle, @MLive Yoga. There's all my written work there, my Yoga for Grief YouTube videos are advertised there. There's yoga inspiration on there. Lovely writing and yoga community on there. You can also find all my details on my website, my booth, www.mliveyoga.com. It's also got my written work, and also there's a specific yoga and grief section which has the yoga and grief videos. My YouTube channel is entirely free, as is subscription. There is a dedicated playlist of yoga and grief classes amongst all kinds of different types of yoga. This is my offering as a yogi to the world. So feel free to subscribe, practice the videos, do recommend them to anybody that might help. That's the whole reason that we filmed them, to help people. And wishing you lots of love, and thank you for coming. I know some of you might have some questions. So I'm just leaving a few minutes in case anybody has any questions, and I know the organisers will come in to help with those if there are any.
I don't know if I'm just seeing if anything comes up. Everyone's saying the family feels wonderful and they'll sleep well tonight, Gary says.
Oh, very nice. Thank you.
And everyone's
good. I'm glad you like that. Thanks, Dusty. Just seen that comment.
Oh, great. I think I'm just trying to see if there's. Yeah, I think you've probably covered everything, but and people can come to your they can come to your booth, and there is you can leave questions there as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just enjoying these comments. Yes, disintegration is the process to absolutely. You got to break first before you can deal with it. Absolutely agree with that.
I think everyone is like. I mean, there was a lot of people watching as well, Emma. So.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
it's good to know. Thanks very much.
No. Well, I think if no one's got any questions, yeah. Hi, Joe.
Hello, thank you, Emma. That was amazing. That has really sorted me out this morning.
Oh, good.
So much. I loved this with that and then the relaxing your shoulders. That was fantastic. Really
good stress relief.
Yeah. Huge release. Yeah.
Good. I'm glad you enjoyed that.
You. I'm going to put Gary Miller's comment up because I love that.
Oh, yeah.
Gary, thank you.
Family enjoyed that. That is lovely to hear, Gary.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Thank you, Emma. And you're teaching for the rest of the day, is that right?
I am, yes. I'm going to go and help a lady with her hip next. Yeah.
All right.
So have a wonderful festival. It's been an absolute honor to be part of it and to open the festival. So thank you for that. I know things won't end here, so I look forward to seeing the debrief from this and what comes next. Fantastic.
Lovely.
And if you any of it, it's been recorded. If anyone came in late, you can go. It'll be in the replay area. How long? It's in a short while, isn't it? It's a few minutes.
Yeah, in a short while it'll be there. Everything will be in the replay.
You can do this every morning. No, I mean for the length of the festival.
Yeah, I think it's a nice place to guide people to, actually, when they come in. It's a really nice place people can go to and watch when they come in. So it's lovely.
It's good to ground, isn't it? Just to bring yourself into that moment, you know, because if you kind of sit down and you've been rushing around, it's, you know, you just connect with your breath, connect with your body. Yeah, it's good to do. Thank you, Gary. Look at his comments.
Gary's loving this morning. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, everybody. That was just wonderful. All right, Emma, we'll have a lovely day.
Thank you very much.
Everybody else, help yourselves. I'll let you go, Emma.
Okay. Bye, everybody. Have a great time.
Bye-bye, Emma.
Bye.